Hi, folks. It is such a joy to see all these beautiful faces. Some of you I've met, some of you I'm just meeting right now. Thank you so much to Chris for getting the ball rolling. She's my dear friend, and she will also be watching the chat. I'm not able to look at the chat at all during the event, but Chris is going to hold that down for us. I really appreciate all the live faces too. If you're able to do that, it's so comforting for me and so inspiring. Hello to everyone. So glad to see you. So because you are so timely, I will just launch right in and I invite you to join me. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear my heater running really loudly? Oh, good. All right, that's what I was hoping. So for that reason, I'm not going to use a beginning and closing bowl because I don't want to set the audio to where it does pick up all the environmental sounds, which is what you need to do to ring a bowl. All right. So let's jump right in. I close my eyes a lot when I am moved to um, play with heart perception because for myself, I see better with my eyes closed. And I encourage you to experiment with this for yourself. Um, Feel free to leave your eyes open with a soft gaze. And please feel free to gently close your eyes and notice whether more information arises with your eyes closed. And that's very much what we're up to today. I'm going to lead you in a kind of inner adventure to notice what arises when you set certain conditions on your perception. This is basically a perceptual training that we're up to here. And the most important thing of all is comfort and safety. So when it comes to me offering you guidance, please take it or leave it, depending on whether it feels right to you, whether it inspires you. And if it doesn't send you in a direction that is appealing or harmonizing, I invite you to sense into what works for you. Because that's really the bottom line here is that by following what works for you, you'll actually um, generate conditions of perception that might be novel or rewarding in ways that ordinary perception or historical perception, the way you've done it, um, is uh, less rich, less rewarding. So go toward the yes, go toward what feels interesting, compelling, and comforting. And that will serve you really well. And that includes your physical body. Even though we're speaking about subtle perception, I invite you to notice your physical body. Settle into your physical form as much as you're able and comfortable doing. I call it grounding or settling, occupying the interior of the body, saturating your body with awareness. That's quite a phrase, but play with how much you can simply observe or notice or feel what's happening in the interior of your skin. If you take a breath, can you feel the air filling up your lungs? As you breathe out, can you feel your lungs releasing that air? Do you notice the beating of your heart? Can you feel the contact of your butt, of your hips against the seat? And your body has other perceptual tricks like hearing and seeing. Can you hear the sounds in your environment, whether my voice or a fan or cars going by? Is there lightness or dark against your eyes if they're closed, or even images? Do you notice that all of the activities that I'm inviting could also be called perceptions? Basically, anything that we notice involves our body and is a perception. If a thought arises, that's still an activity that you're perceiving. You could call the mind another sensory organ that's registering the thoughts. And your body feels emotions. Notice the state of emotions that you're arriving in today to this program. What kind of emotions are registering in your body, in your psyche? You could call it your body mind. It's interesting that even by paying attention to physical sensations and perceptions, we tend to downshift into a more holistic form of, um, let's call it nervous system regulation. So even just by feeling your body, hearing the sounds, noticing what the inner eye is generating, you might actually feel yourself relaxing, downshifting. And I think it's a really great tool, but it's different from what I hope to join you in here today, which I'm calling heart perception. But I mean something very specific by that. And I'm going to um, lead you in some guidance to see if you can investigate it for yourself. It's not something that necessarily comes online vividly in the first instant. You might have to practice it, but you might not. And there's lots of support on this call, people who've been doing it for a while, and that will really support us in dialing our kind of radio dial to the frequency that I'm going to propose to you and try to inaugurate here. And I started with the body on purpose because the body is the first essential underpinning of heart perception. Why is that? It's because ordinary perception, perception the way most of us do it on a daily basis, comes from a fixed position most often, and it comes from the head most often, from between the eyes, behind the forehead, or sometimes for some of us, even beyond the body, suspended outside the body. That can be a great place to observe, like a kind of eagle's perch outside the body. Why not? But if what you're interested in is experiencing heart perception, then you actually need to land in the heart, starting with the interior of our physical form. So subtle perception in the way that I'm guiding you starts with dropping into the body. That still tickles me. I still think it's so different from how most people think about visionary perception. But actually what I'm proposing is that visionary perception in the way I'm describing invites us down into the landscape of the body. It's a very fluid, generous, fertile, grounded quality of perception. So coming into the body is the essential first piece. And any activity of the body will do. Even if it feels stressful to be in the body for some reason, there's lots of reasons why it might. There could be discomfort or understandings, tentativeness, reluctance. If you experience some resistance to quieting down and coming in, then what I suggest is that you actually let yourself experience whatever is showing up. So if I feel some discomfort or some resistance, I'm not going to push. I'm going to let myself feel the resistance or the reluctance. And that's actually the first step. The first step of coming into the body is feeling whatever tentativeness might exist around coming into the body. And there's no right way to do this. It's about dancing with your own communications, the communications of the wisdom of your body. So why don't you notice, where are you noticing from? Are you noticing from the head, the throat, the belly? Do you have access to the realm of the chest and the cave of the heart? And I'll take this as my cue to tell you that the the there's kind of the direct way of heart perception, and then there's the long path. And the direct way is just to go to this particular spot. So I'm just going to describe this particular spot, and I invite you to notice whether you can simply land there. But don't worry, because if it doesn't come easy, there's a perfectly legit, longer, more meandering way that's just as delightful. And I'll do that next. So the direct way is to let awareness settle down into the body within the chest and just go to the back of the heart. So we are talking about your physical heart, but we're talking about a quasi-physical location. And if I were going to name the anatomy, it would be a tiny little microscopic batch of neurons, the pacemaker cells, which establish the heartbeat at the back of the heart, actually at the back wall of the heart in the right atrium. It's called the sinoatrial node, or the SA node. Just go there. There's a little magic here, and I invite you to take advantage of it, because there is an SA node quality that's right away with us, helped out by all my friends on the call here. The SA node, your attention is tumbling back and down. It's almost like if you were a whale and you were breathing in your whale way, you would be breathing from the back of the heart. I'll say a few more things, but if you're noticing something interesting, just let my words wash right over you. This is not a fixed position that we're in at the SA node. It's a positionless position. What do I mean by that? When you're here, you're everywhere. When perception arises at this magical quasi-physical spot, you have access to vastness and to the finite. You have access to the physical and the non-physical. This is like a swinging door between form and formless. But if the words take you out of it, just stay with the quality of perception. In other words, stay with what you notice, with the intention of perception arising at this balance point that we're calling the SA node. Great. If this is sparking joy and magic for you, just stay right there. If you want a little extra support, which would be very understandable, I'm going to lead you with a little more guidance. We started with the body. You've got one. That's your perceptual apparatus here. Notice whether you're able to, well, let's start here. Notice where you're noticing from. Where is the light beam of your awareness pointing from? Is it coming from up above? Is it coming from in back of you? Is it rising up from your pelvis? Are you oriented as though you're leaning toward me, eagerly trying to take in this information? Are you out ahead of yourself? These are all natural and common ways to hold attention. Can you allow attention, I'm more comfortable with the word awareness for reasons I'll tell you later, but attention feels very individual and pointed, and that might be your experience right now. If attention is out in front, can you draw it back and down? If awareness is pulling you back because you're wide or because you're shy, can you invite it forward? And all the other 358 possibilities, I forget, of the area around you. Can you draw awareness into the chest? And can you notice how little doing is required? This work is very much about non-doing. So these movements are subtle, but they're real. They're not imagination, but at first it might feel like you're visualizing it or you're imagining it. But I'm actually inviting you to do it. Just do it very lightly. This is just great. There's just so much support in this circle of humans that it makes it very possible. If it's hard, please don't sweat it, because the things I'm talking about sound absolutely kooky from ordinary perception. So I don't doubt that at moments it's going to seem really like, what? But at the same time, there's so much support for this activity. Yeah. So just draw awareness within. You've landed in your body and you're there in your chest. Now, no matter how far back you feel you are, can you play with coming even a little further back? This is the most common and the most effective adjustment. That's great. I really like how you're taking this. And now, if you associate the heart with an organ on the left side of your chest, can you actually notice whether there's a little bit of your heart that brims over just to the right of your spine and go back to the back wall from there? For some of you, the bindu point, the gem that's going to focalize this activity for you, is going to be right in the middle. But for many of us, just coming a smidge to the right of the spine does wonders to find this little portal. And and breathe. Back, way back. Allow there to be breath. So I imagine some of you are thinking, okay, how do I even know if I'm there? Like you're describing this spot, but what is it? What does it do? And how do I even know if I'm there? So I'm going to move ahead with answering some of those questions, I hope, experientially. And my invitation to you is as follows. Even if you have no idea if awareness is actually in this quasi physical spot that I'm calling the SA node, keep on practicing, keep on believing, and eventually you will experience some shifts of perception that will indicate, they will be flags to validate for you that you are there. But in fact, even though I'm emphasizing the place, I'm calling it a quasi physical location because it's not the narrow anatomical location that matters to me or to you, I would suggest. It's the function that that brings online. So keep on inviting awareness back and down. Keep on knowing that this is possible and verifiable, but also ultimately what you're looking for is the wisdom and the perceptual richness that engages when you perceive from this place. So, to review, what we've done so far is we've come into the body, we've settled awareness into the body. Then we practice two ways of landing at the back of the heart in a spot that I'm calling the sinoatrial node. First, we just went there, and then we tried noticing where awareness was lingering or habitual and drawing awareness down, back, forward, however, to investigate the cave of the heart and to notice whether there is a spot that makes things happen. So now I want to talk about what kinds of things might happen. Why is this even meaningful? Well, actually, let's back up and start with how are the ways that you would even know something is happening? And the catch here is that I'm acknowledging that we all have our wiring. We all have very different wiring. Our perceptual apparatus is such that some of you will see that it's happening. Some of you will hear. Some of you will simply know. For some of you, different channels of subtle perception, non-ordinary perception will come online and engage. And I can't tell you how that's going to be. All I can do is tell you how it is for me. And give you some hints from the hundreds of people who have tried this before us. But what you're looking for is how it happens for you. The the umbrella term that I would use to describe what happens is that you go from a form of perception in which you are separate from what you know. You are a knower and you know things out there, even if they're things in here like thoughts. You feel separate from the things that you know, the objects of perception. That's how most of us know. It's how science knows. It sets up an observer and observes an experiment. So we're all trained to be little scientists, and knowing from the head is a very good place to know if that's how you want to know, because knowing from the mind or the head center in typical conditions separates you from what is known. Now, this is not true if you are awake at the level of the head. Sky mind is extraordinarily lucid and does not separate because there's no objects to be known if you're in sky mind. So, awakeness at the level of the head is empty. There are no objects. This is more ordinary perception at the level of the head, separates. So, what is this radical thing that I'm describing? I'm suggesting that the place in the body along the midline that you know from affects how you know. Where you perceive from deeply matters. That's why I'm leading you to the back of the heart, because the way that you know from the back of the heart unites you with what is known. It's a kind of making whole, wholeness, whole with a WHOLE. You are whole, you are united with what is known when you know from the back of the heart. If you know from the belly, that's another perfectly legitimate and desirable way to know, is from belly or pelvis. But we wouldn't be here to talk about it because that's knowing through the void. And there's just disappearance. Not that helpful if you want to actually stay in the world in a consistent way. But enhance how you love, enhance how you know, enhance what you know. I'm not sure that made sense, but we can unpack it later. And you'll have a chance to discuss any of these points with me afterwards. So if you're confused, we can talk about it. So we were investigating how you know that you're knowing from the back of the heart. And my answer is, I want you to find out. But for me, here's an example of how I know that I'm knowing this way. Instead of just seeing with my ordinary eyes as though I'm separate from what I am knowing, a channel of perception engages that I call see feel or feel see, where I see what I'm feeling and I feel what I'm seeing. And it's kind of like composed of subtle, very slow motion patterns, like fractals, like I'm submerged in a bath where there's vortices and whirligigs. So I've changed element. I've dropped from one substance, the clarity of air, into a slower, heavier, more substantive substance. And what I'm feel seeing inevitably relates to my environment. It's not limited to what's inside my head. It's unified with the person that I'm engaging with, the animal, myself. It's a different way of knowing. The key here is that it's likely to become blurrier for you because you're not in the laser sharp mental disposition anymore. You're in the blurrier heart perception disposition. I have so much more for you to go on. I'm trying to keep this simple, but also give you enough to go on. I want to be quiet for a couple minutes so that you can explore without intrusion. And then I'm going to pick this up for one more piece, if you don't mind, before we close the guided section. So I'll be quiet for a little bit. And here's your job. Your job is to do as little as possible to intend that awareness drops down, because it's probably going to be down, but awareness lands in the cave of your heart, deep in your chest, at the very back, way to the back. You might even come in from the back. It's so far back. Yep. And breathe like you're a whale from a spot at the upper right of your heart, the back wall of your heart. You might not experience it as a tiny little different place called the SA node in the least. I never did. It doesn't have to come through anatomically. You're just noticing what happens when you nestle around back there and let a little glow form, let a little heat, warmth, juiciness. Something cascades back there that can grow. And then just notice what happens. Sometimes this can be such a tease because the harder we try or make an effort, even if we're so sincere, that brings us into a state of reaching for a goal in the future. And what I didn't mention is that heart perception by its nature is right now. It's actually landing us in a way of no time, no space. It, that's what the present moment really is, right? It's not actually in time, the present moment. It's outside of time. And so if we try to, I want this, then we're reaching for something as though we don't have it, and it's the kiss of death. It's the best way to lose it. Believe me, I know. So this leads us into the last segment I want to do here with you is the significance of heart perception beyond like a party trick. Like why I haven't really conveyed why would we want to do this? It's so potent for healing, for generating a physiological disposition that's optimized for healing. It's so potent for supporting someone else in healing, for connecting with someone else, relating to them, knowing their experience, because heart perception unifies you with the one you know. And I know there are a lot of clinicians on this call, but it's not just clients, it's our child, it's our animal companion, it's our parent, anyone that we're in relation to. When you know them in this way that's deeply interconnected, it's so it's just so valuable and so rewarding, and assists you in loving better and supporting someone's experience, whether they're suffering or joyful. Then on top of healing and perceiving and relating to other, the function of heart perception makes available to us what you might call our true nature, or the formless, still awareness that's that our form emerges out of. We can actually get in touch with our origins, the nothing out of which our something grew. We do this through heart perception. It's amazing, right? And so you could call that awakening to the formless matrix, the formless non-physical dimension out of which physical reality emerges. Now that's true of the midline as a whole. All of you biodynamic practitioners on the call know this deeply. You can go into infinity and nothingness just as much as you can go out to it in the periphery. But the heart, the back of the heart, is a particular access point that I emphasize because it is the fulcrum between, as far as I'm concerned, like all the really compelling polarities. The SA node is a balance point between activity, like the body, and emptiness or stillness or nothingness. The SA node is like a swinging door, a toggle that balances the manifest form of 3D reality and the unmanifest, formless, empty nothingness out of which all those quarks and particles are constantly blinking in and out. It's the source, right? The SA node is the fulcrum between form and formless, body and awareness, activity and stillness. And that means that when you live at the intersection of those polarities, you have access to the potency, the brilliance, the wisdom, the healing power of source. Sorry, I have to get my hand straight here, but and you have access to 3D reality, to the physical, to the body, to daily lived experience in a body. And that is a really potent intersection. If you can walk that tightrope where you can dip into the blessings of source, of divinity, of the magic of conditions before they were etched in to physical reality. That's the unconditional, right? If you can dip into that and pull it back into form, then you're like, successfully doing this tightrope walk that I'm talking about as the SA node. So that's why it's so meaningful when you orient perception from the back of your heart. It's both and. You're opening up this terrain which augments subtle perception. It augments the power of healing. And it gives you access to your deepest source. So you're not limited by physical conditions. You're actually landing in the realm of miracles because you're not beholden to the conditions that came before. So that's a pretty good sell, right? The trick is to do it. And I wonder if you'd like to take another few minutes just to be quiet before we go into conversation and play with that dance. See if you can drop into the SA node that centers you. And I'll leave you with these final words about it. This is not just that which centers your body. It is, I'm describing it as the central orienting principle of your body. Embryologically, it's also that. But what centers you and your body and your life also centers everything in existence, the cosmos. So by going in to this deepest, innest place in you, you're landing in the center of everything. And that is how, that is why you know what's happening, that as though it's talked about as though it's out there. But when you're in the SA node, there is no out there. It's all in here. You're at the center of the cosmos when you drop into the center of your being at the SA node. Let's try it. Let's try it together. Thank you so very much. If you're in a juicy place, please stay where you are. And if you have sharings or questions, we'll take a minute to transition and then we'll move into conversation. So you're welcome to type comments and questions into the chat, and Chris will support us in that way and let me know if you'd like, if you'd like Chris to read your question or comment. Um, I would love to hear anything about your experience. If any of you actually would like to share how you're aware of heart perception for yourself, I think it would be great to seed the conversation with some practical examples of how that comes through for others. Chris, do you want to keep track of hands up, or do you want me to do that?
I can do that, Jenna. And we have one already. Barja, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, sure. Thank you, first of all, so much for holding space and guiding this. I'm all the way here in India. It's been a long time since I first connected with the heart, and this is just the second time I was able to connect to it. What I find very fascinating is, and what happened today also, is that while I was perceiving into the SA node as you were guiding us, um, it was just a split second of perception, and it just went into this very deep non-dual space of where one very easily perceives or senses um, our non-dual self, so to speak, and that perception was so clear. And while we understand from a very non-dualistic point of view and the Advaitic point of view, the non-dual Tantrism point of view, that the heart is the center of the universe, is it that anatomically, when we lean into the heart, the anatomical heart perception, it carries so much of it brings about so much of very deep, very visceral gratitude, and all those states that we really associate with being in a non-dual self. And is it just with us practitioners, or it happens even with our clients? So yeah, that's just something I was wondering from your experience.
Oh, I'm so overjoyed that you shared, and it's great to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm so also really so touched by your experience. And for me, the minute I said both and in the conversation, I thought, oh, right, that's how I always talk about the non dual level of perception, is that it's both the physical and the non physical at the same time. So it doesn't surprise me that that function of heart perception lends itself to non dual perception. I definitely think that our clients can experience anything that we experience. And I have experienced that they experience what we experience. And I encourage some of my clients to go through the process that we went through today in the guided meditation. There's no reason why you couldn't assist your client in modulating their awareness, so because so many people come in and they're not in their body, or they're fixed in their head. And it seems to me such a blessing that really all we have to do to operate from a non-dual level of perception, well, but all we have to do is to allow consciousness to drop into the back of the heart and expand beyond the limited conception of a body that we take to be that's conventional, let's say, that we're trapped within the skin. But we're at an advantage as biodynamic practitioners. We're at an advantage because we know that we're not trapped within the skin. And heart perception is perception that draws us beyond our isolated, separate selves into a deep knowing that we're unified with everyone else.
Mm.
So I'm really just repeating what you said. I mean, that's so gorgeous what you brought in. And I'm completely in agreement that the kind of gratitude and like if outpouring of compassion and gratitude and beauty and the expansion of consciousness that occurs when we rest at the back of the heart is not a coincidence. It's that we're generating a state of consciousness that um, that I'm it's so I want to say 20 things at the same time and they're not all coming out into a sentence because it's not really a state of consciousness that we're talking about. It's just seeing clearly.
Yes.
That's what
It's the non-dual seeing. Yes.
exactly. So it's not that we're
Yeah.
trying, and I really want to be clear about that, Varya, because so many people come in thinking, oh, heart perception means I'm going to feel all gooey. And we all have this perception of the heart as the place where love comes from. But I'm not talking about that kind of mushy, gushy
Yes.
romance kind
Mm.
of heart
Yeah.
perception. I'm talking about it as a clear seeing. And that's just what you're bringing us to, which is so helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I just want to close saying that the only reason I also wanted to ask you and about this and just validate is because when I work with a lot of sexual abuse cases and rape cases, I find that the center of the self, which is so gone away into the victim identity, apart from all the trauma work, of course, the somatic work, the nervous system work, is at times after a long case study of trying to get them to recover, even their psychological sense of self needs to be oriented to the heart self, the non dual self. And sometimes it's probably easier to access it through the heart perception rather than trying to find it and get them back into a dissociated state. I mean, I hope I'm making sense here, but yeah. But thank you so much. You just helped me understand that that's like the gravity point of the sense of self, something
I
like that.
I
Yeah.
love that way of framing it, and I know from my practice also that it's easier said than done because the heart also tends to have it tends to carry all of the walls that we've put up if we've suffered trauma, including
Yeah.
the kind of abuse that you're talking about and sexual abuse. So
Yeah.
it's very, very important. I can feel in your field that you would never be someone who would push, but it's just, I just want to say that's why it's so important not to push someone to come into their heart. Even if you think it's a great idea, we cannot twist someone's elbow. We cannot force this. This is
No.
something that has to be
Invited.
invited.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, now I have a sense of, oh, there is a biological center point for that invitation. I didn't have that earlier before
Oh,
this.
that's so
So thank you so
great.
much.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think it really works for people for whom it would be too woo-woo to
Yes.
sort of, you can actually use the physiology and the anatomy to your advantage.
Yeah.
And if anyone here hasn't looked up the wonderful people at Heart Math in Boulder Creek, California, they give some kind of scientific backing to the qualitative difference, including like better SAT scores, less insomnia for veterans, like, but simply by resting in the heart,
Mm.
by bringing
Yeah.
awareness into the heart, you can actually have dramatically improved results. It can have an impact on daily life activities.
Yeah.
Maria, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
It's so good to talk to you. I wish you well with your beautiful work. Hope to see you again.
And then we have another one from Carrie. She would like to share.
Great.
Hi, Jenna, and hi, everybody. I
Hi,
had
Carrie.
I had like a million aha explosive moments through the whole thing, so it's sort of hard to put it into some small sharing, but I'll try. But I think what I first wanted to share was when you said that you see feel. I went, someone else is talking about this, except mine is listen feel.
Oh, cool.
And I've been saying that for a number of years that I'm a musician and I'm like really like tied into frequency. Um, but it's really hard to talk about what listen feel is. And the second thing I kind of realized is, oh, this really makes sense. I teach little children violin, and I teach teachers about it. And what a lot of them ask me is, how did you know when that child walked in and you'd never met them before? How did you know who they were? And I now know, oh, that's where I go. But I never had a name for it. I never at all knew how to talk about it. So I'm so excited about like being able to share like something a little bit more specific rather than, you know, well, you listen and you stay open and you feel, but this is like kind of like a pragmatic, real thing. And then the third thing I wanted to mention is when I am purposely trying to go into that frequency without knowing what it was, it's going to be different for me now. I go to 1 o'clock and I turn a dial, actually, just as you said, and there's that frequency I'm looking for, and I'm realizing, oh, that's the output for me from the heart.
Oh,
Like I'm seeing it as the arrow. There's the output. Then I know what to say, I know what to do, but the starting point feels like the heart. So I'm laying all that out, and I wanted to hear what you thought about that, or
all right. How many hours do we have?
I don't know. I know.
That is gorgeous. Can you just say a word more about? I mean, you just packed so much in. I so
I
appreciate
know. Sorry.
that.
I
No,
tried to
this
do
is
it.
so great. The listen feel is the overarching thing that you're doing, and the heart speaking through the frequency
Yeah.
that's sort of the action step that comes
Yes.
out of it.
Yes. But I didn't know that before. So I was sort of trying to go there to, you know, change the frequency dial, which was minimally happening, but how much more powerful to go to the heart, which is the genesis of this. Yeah.
Yes.
Huge.
And are you able to say just a few more words about what listen feel is like?
Well, something interesting I've found about myself lately, in the last couple of years, is I actually have what's called aphantasia, which is you have an inability to see inside your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so the visuals that people give in meditations and things have never really felt quite what my modality is. I can feel what an apple looks like, but I'm not seeing an apple when I close my eyes,
Exactly.
right? And so I think listening has come in sort of like almost as if I'm blind, where the frequency and the listening have become the thing that I rely on. Listen, the feel and the listen. I can't separate them. So
Oh,
I mainly
you can't separate them.
can't
That's the whole
separate them.
point. Exactly.
Yeah. So I mostly
It's a
wanted to
synergy. It's a
Yeah, so I mostly wanted to share that so that others might be able to hear, oh, there might be a different, as you said, Jenna, there might be a different way that I operate.
I so appreciate that, Carrie. Thank you so much. And you're also answering a question that someone had written to me as an intention around using heart perception to organize action. And I forget how it was put exactly, but you're really answering the question the way I would of it's not the thing about heart perception is it puts us in touch with who we are beyond our separate self, beyond our isolated incarnation. And so it's not so much about I'm going to get this information and I'm going to do that as how can I tap into acting out of that wisdom? Can that wisdom act through me? Can the heart's wisdom act through me? And in your case, can my behavior arise out of the frequency? Or in my case, let's say leading a meditation, I'm trying to speak from that place. I'm trying to get my little me out of the way.
Yeah.
And so I love the way you made that arrow from your heart out into the place that's getting its marching orders.
Yeah. And when I go wrong, I can feel myself go wrong when I'm pushing from the third eye, sixth chakra area of, okay, this, I'm going to make this work.
That's exactly
and
right.
I can get pretty exhausted in there. So I've been learning for the last 5 years or so of how to like let that not be part of the action part.
I'm so glad I recognize that. It's a perfectly legitimate center of insight and perception and activity. But so many people rely heavily on it to the point of burnout.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't tap into what we're talking about here today. Thank you. It's such a joy to talk to you.
Too.
Jenna, I just want to share that in the comments, Celeste said that she also feels, and she loved that you shared that, and neat to hear about Carrie's experience. And then Barisha said, wow, Carrie, in our Vedic text, listening the way you do is the highest faculty of human perception, even above seeing.
Wow.
And Rowana is up next.
Thank you, Chris. Hello. How do I pronounce your name?
It's Roanna.
Roanna. It's so great to meet you. We corresponded. Yeah.
I realise why I'm here now. This is just so beautiful and so perfect for right now. I'll try and make sense of it. Really, really beautiful because I find really lately as well, I've been resting what I feel is in my centre, which has been my heart. But in the other work I do, Qigong, our centre is the lower dantian, so the abdomen. But of late, I feel a real shift of my centre, and it is so much more in the heart. And I feel that this is such a place to be where we can really settle in what's going on at the moment and everything. And I share a lot of this in my work with the cranial and the Qigong. But it's also really beautiful because for me, the work that you've done is very similar. When you said source and the form and the formless, it's all very much what we work with the Qigong as well. But that sense of returning inwards and that place of absolute pure acceptance where there is neither nor. I don't know, I can't explain it. It's just that real sense of when you were directing us to this place, for me, it was the essence of the heart, the middle dantian. And it was just so beautiful to, I know we have the heart center and we have this center, we have the mind center. And also as I was settling, I felt a real pressure in the back of my neck up into the cranial base. And the mid-eye, I could feel quite a direct pathway from that area to the mid-eye. And it was almost like a concentric channel that was fluctuating. And it was pulsing more at the mid-eye to start. But the more I kind of let go, the more you were saying it was more the gateway, which I found was really beautiful as well, because I find the more I've been in my heart, the more it's almost like I'm participating but not participating in life.
Yes.
I can't quite put it all into words, but and once I settled a bit deeper, it was really beautiful because, and the expression of the whale, I love that because I use that a lot when I speak to people about the heart in my practice with Qigong. It's almost like going in, like diving into the ocean of the heart because the whale is like the record keeper of ancient knowledge.
The whale?
Whale in Hopi, I've got some really beautiful animal cards, and the whale is the energy and the essence is the record keeper of ancient wisdom. And so for me, I always use that beautiful diving into the ocean of the heart, imagining a whale going to the depths. So I love that as you brought that in as well. So that was just really, but the sense that I got when I really dropped into here was that just a release. And I get that in Qigong very occasionally where it's just pure freedom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that word in.
Everything just disperses. There's no holding on. It's just like, yeah, it's just can't even find a word for it. But I really know why I came tonight and I felt drawn to this. So it's absolutely perfect for me right now. And I just, such gratitude for you sharing your wisdom. And
Oh, I'm so thrilled that you shared too. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
yeah, no, it's absolutely lovely. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing your wisdom. That's so beautiful. And, it's almost like a mother with children and trying to pick your favorite, like, because I actually operate from the Hara a lot, and my meditation teacher is very centered around the Hara, um, and comes from a Zen background where that's emphasized. But I just feel like each center has so much to offer that's unique. And what I notice about the way most people present the heart is that they're talking about the heart chakra. And I think this is what you meant when you were saying, people talk about the different centers. The heart chakra is completely different from the SA node.
Mhm.
And I haven't actually fine tuned a way to talk about that. So I'd love to hear from any of you. But I think that when people tend to talk about the heart chakra, they're talking about emotions in great part. And they're also talking about a location in the subtle anatomy that is more forward. Even though I know chakras supposedly go the whole way back, I think the way that I hear most people discussing them, they're actually talking about something that's quite forward. And so the SA node pulls in a different energetic signature.
In Qigong, the Dantians have a front and a back.
Mm.
So that's really lovely. But I think what it is as well, the way that you were talking about that area just to the right, is that's where it really animates in the practice. When I have that moment of freedom, it's really expressed just in that area. So for me, that was quite
Oh,
lovely to really sense that because it's really brought that now into where I am.
that's really important for me to hear. Thank you for that. Yeah. And the word freedom, basically, the SA node is a place of perceptual freedom where you're not limited by the local perceptual apparatus. So you know things beyond what your local body mind would know because you're plugging into something that is distributed throughout existence. So freedom is a very important word. Oh, it was really good to talk to you, Ren.
Yeah,
Thank you for
really lovely.
sharing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Jenna, Paul sent me a message and he would also like to share.
Great. Oh my gosh. So I will try to be a better timekeeper, but it's so much fun to talk to everyone. Great.
Yeah. Um, well, I was hearing you talk about the energy of the group, and I really felt the resonance. It was very magnetic. I felt pulled in, and I really appreciated your guided imagery a lot. It feels a lot like everyone who's spoken has been looking at the same elephant that I have, trying to figure out what's going on. Um, I have done a lot of meditation with Yoga Nidra, focusing on the chakras, but also focusing on the dantians and focusing on paying attention to what my heart's doing when it's beating. And in the middle of your first silent period, I was feeling my blood going throughout my whole body. It, I attribute that to being in a group like this. It's more than I've ever really sensed before. But the main thing I wanted to talk about is you were talking about somehow settling into a place where it's kind of like things haven't been decided yet.
Yeah.
And I feel that intensely. I feel like when I'm doing a meditation or when I'm trying to be present, if I can sink into that place where I am sure that I'm not sure, I mean, I'm comfortable and safe and I can relax into not needing to protect anything and feel like I can be present with my energy. Um, I was in that space when you were talking about finding the SA node, and it's like the map lights up when I'm not making it happen. And I actually get an ache in the middle of my chest, and I'll have, I don't know if that's my SA node, but I know where that is now. But it's a focus for letting go of everything else, which really helps me be present with, like you say, the knowing that I can't get any other way. And I feel like I'm a beginner at this, but it's very rich territory.
It certainly is. Thank you so much for that, Paul. I love a lot of your language. One of my teachers has called this, when she's instructing us, this is not a biodynamic teacher, by the way. Um, it's a teacher who says, go to where you made it all up. And it's a cosmic joke. And for me, I immediately went to the back of the heart and she said, yep, you're doing it. So it's exactly what you're talking about, the place where we're most unsure.
It feels like there's a continuum. It's not really a continuum. There are several stops along the way, and one of them is in that place of uncertainty. And not too far down the track is the place where everything disappears. And I can be in a yoga nidra, and it's like the switch goes off. I am completely absent for a while. And then the person who's talking in my ear says, now return to your breath. And it's like I just turn the light on and I'm back. I'm not waking up. It's like I'm just stepping into a different perception. So it's become clear to me. And there are other times when my whole body is illuminated with energy, and there are other times when I'm aware of sensations in my body that are uncomfortable and that I can attend to without worrying about them. And they open up and relax because I trust them to tell me what they want to say.
Yeah.
So I love being in a conversation where I can feel that whole dimension of being totally worried about doing my taxes or letting it all go.
Talk about non-dual. Thank you so much for sharing. I wish I had longer to talk to you. It feels like there's a lot to unpack there, Paul. But I
Thanks.
really appreciate your sharing, and I'm going to take the ache in the chest with me as a signal to be continued.
Jenna, Jan is up next.
Jan, good to meet you.
Sorry, I just had to unmute. Good to meet you. In and out of the sweet spot, you're guiding really took me into this a sweet spot. I'm not sure whether I sense from the heart. I work on sensing from the heart. I am either blessed or cursed with being able to see and sense. Some of the seeing is imagination. Some of the seeing is fantasizing. And some of the seeing is actually seeing in the sense that it presents something. And being able to differentiate between those is quite the job. And at the same time, I can sense and sort of the what is seeing sometimes really coerce with what I can sense in my hands or in my body. So it is sort of but when it comes to sensing from the heart, yeah, I mean, but your guidance really took me into a sweet spot. That sweet spot, in a way, has left me now, or I have left it, and that's sort of interesting because it would be very interesting to be in the sweet spot all the time. I don't know if it's possible, but it would be very interesting to be able to be in the sweet spot all the time. So sort of to make a question out of this is I sort of see a difference between, or it's possible to see, it's possible to feel, it's possible to sense. Those are differences, different connotations, and it is a little bit. Would it be a little bit interesting if you could relate to what you said? You said pull source, non-conditioned into form. I think you said, at least. So it would be interesting to hear whether, when you pull source in relation to heart, in relation to client, holding your own space and holding the client's space. How?
Yeah, that's so pivotal. And you're pointing to such an enigma around the work, because if I try to do it, it will flop immediately. It will only work when I called it getting out of the way before. I think it's only possible, like sensing at this level is only possible when you surrender a kind of, not necessarily your autonomy, but your sense of isolation. You cannot do this from a sense of separation, because that will pull you up here. So yes, sensing, feeling, seeing with your inner eye, these can all be modulations of heart perception, but none of them is going to allow me as an individual to pull from source for my client. It's that both of us together are surrendering our individuality and our isolation enough that we can rest in source. It pulls itself through. That was like Carrie on this call, who was going like this. She wasn't doing that. She can't do that, just as I can't pull from source. How do those words strike you?
Strikes me as it makes sense. In your guidance, there is a dance in my field, in my body. There is definitively a perception from up here. There is a perception from here. Then it shifts, and there is a perception in my eye sockets. There is a perception down in my legs. It shifts and dances. So it's not stable. It's a dynamic movement in the system, floating, shifting. How would you? Does that make sense to you? Is it sort of?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, this is a dance and a shift par excellence. if it was more fixed and more static and not a dance, I would be more disinclined to recognize it as what we're talking about. Yeah, I hope that we get so much more time to investigate that. I feel frustrated by the clock right now, people.
We will have to do some cross-country ski.
I think that we will, yes. Either that or a Zoom. Thank you so much. And it's really good to see your face. I hope to see you again soon like this. I want to acknowledge the pressures of the time that I said didn't exist. And I'm going to stay on the call for my two friends whose hands have been up for a while. And I understand that some of you might need to leave the call, but I am recording, even though I totally forgot about pinning. So there's so many people here. I know they're tiny, but it's been so good for me to see all your faces and not just look at my own face. And I just want to express my gratitude to all of you for showing up and engaging so much. And I hope some of you can stay. Chris, can you stay a few more minutes?
Yes, I can stay a few more minutes.
Thank you so much. Because Christiane and Martha have had their hands up for a while. Have people texted questions in the chat?
Tina shared that she would like to share also. So those are the three that have expressed a desire to speak.
Great. So I'm going to stay for Christiane and Martha and Tina. And I hope some of you can stay too. And I apologize for running over. It's great that people are so engaged.
Christiane, I think that you were up next.
Looking for you.
So it's been a few years now, a couple of years, that I have been having the privilege of being guided by you to this, as now just described as sweet spot, which I love. It's so such a great reflection, and this my appreciation for your fierce guidance has grown so much, and to all of you who hold the space so that this can happen. It's really tremendous. So really, that was the main thing that I wanted to share. But just very quickly, perhaps in answer to your question, how do I know that I'm there? The most pragmatic way that I would describe it is that I am no longer favoring that thinking mind that is so strong at wanting my attention. I am now favoring something that is, yes, in this body, but it's much more subtle and it's much more interesting and seductive. Another way of describing this that also feels practical is that I actually feel the pulsation of the heart increase, intensified. And then for those of you who speak the language of Ayurveda, is that I notice that the qualities of what I'm experiencing, they drastically shift from an airy, heating, clarifying quality to a much more full and thicker and moist and fluid and more cloudy. And so that's how I have this confidence that I'm there. And then of course the next thing that comes for me moving forward is how do I integrate this more so that when I wake up in the morning with a significant question as to the direction that my life needs to go, that I can, from tapping into this place, not feel that split into, oh, let me see if I can answer that question, and then instantly notice that I'm no longer receptive to this place that I've come to. So that's the very gentle inquiry that I see already unfolding, because in all this time, these minutes that I have had receiving all of your experiences through the thinking mind, and also recognizing that I am very much in my heart. Or should I say the cave of the heart? Or should I say the sweet spot? But, so that must mean that I am integrating it more than I have in the past.
And I love that you're bringing receptivity in. Sometimes I talk about it as a satellite dish because it's very much about receiving. And then somehow that translates into doing, like you're suggesting. But that process is organic and not managed from above, from the control tower up above. Oh, that's so beautiful what you shared. I really want to sit with it. And the movement between qualities that you described, from airy to full, thicker, moister, fluid, all the biodynamic people on the call are going to recognize that you're speaking our Ayurvedic language, and even from biodynamic language, it's a complete match. Going from the tissue body to the fluid body is what we would call it, or going from air into water. So I love that you brought that in. And if I can just say one more quick thing, I love what you said about being interested. That I use the word absorption. There's a magnetism to information that comes from the heart. And Jan, this is also for you, because it's one thing if that dance is just kind of an airy dance and it's really fun, but it doesn't have that embodied, conscious, magnetic absorption feeling. Like Paul was talking about it through the lens of yoga nidra, right? Like being in the emptiness. But that's not flat. It's incredibly rich. I mean, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I'm just trying to pull in some of these threads, because I feel like that word interesting is actually very important. It's not just something that the mind is making up and it's flickering and sparkly, but light. It actually has gravitas. Does that languaging work for you, Christiani? Since I'm
absolutely this year.
Yeah, I love it.
Standing right out of my mouth, yes, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good to hear from you. Thank you for sharing. Martha.
Yes. So good to see you all.
So good to be with you again.
Thank you. I'm going to see if I can distill this. So many things. I think before, when we've done these calls, my perception has been more of how I'm taking in impressions. Like where am I perceiving from? And how when I find that spot, that sweet spot, everything opens up. And especially when I acknowledge that maybe my energy is a little bit forward, as it often is, and sink back and rest in that field, that everything just opens up. And today I was more aware of something else, and that's that when I find that spot, I'm also generating something. It's not just how I'm taking something in, it's what I'm generating. And that was like, wow. My heart got very hot. I've had that, I put my hand on my heart, my hand gets hot, all that. This was more. And at the same time, there was a visual. When you were talking about see, feel, there was a visual that came, and I live in Canada and we've been seeing the Northern Lights. It was like that.
Yes.
It was that dancing, fluid colors, and it was connected to this. And then later, there was the idea that I believe this sinoatrial node is where our heartbeat originated.
Yeah.
Our first heartbeat came from there.
Yeah.
And there was the thought of, and the feeling of, I'm going back to who I was when I came in. Oh, and that you talked about source. I think it's the same thing, that
Yeah.
it was a sensation of
Yeah.
power and presence, and clarity
Oh,
and stillness, and dynamic at the same time.
what
Too
you
much, too
said.
much to put in words, but
No, thank you so
oh,
much. I'm so glad we got these words.
yeah, it
Oh,
just keeps getting more and deeper. And so I'm so grateful that you record these, because I will listen again, and thank you to everyone so much. And for some reason, I want to say, especially to Nico, thank you for the quality of your attention. Thank you, everyone.
thanks, Martha. Wow. Mm. Tina, would you like to share something about your experience before we close?
Jenna,
So good to
so fantastic to see you.
yeah.
My God, I'm thinking, how many years has it been? We don't want to talk about it.
25.
Yes, yes. And you look fantastic. You are so shiny. It's awesome. So, first, thank you for reaching out. Um, this process that you're sharing is like another avenue to get to stillness. And that's what I teach people. Like, we come in as spirit having a human experience, and somehow we forgot that in our domestication of the human experience. And let's take a step back and slow down to stillness so that we can watch what we're doing and what's happening around us from the deeper, still place. Totally different movement through life. Like, everything changes. And you've given me a way to help people who can't quite grasp what I'm saying in this way, another way, a practical, physical way to get there. Blew me away. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. I'm so
No,
glad to see you and talk
I
to
know
you.
you.
I'm really glad you got something to take away.
It's great.
And I invite everyone to just acknowledge for yourself, what is your biggest takeaway from this event today. Before you go, just acknowledge for yourself, what's something that you want to move forward for yourself.
Beautiful.
And on that note, I want to thank every single person for your contributions, whether they were verbal or energetic. I felt you all deeply. I want to thank my friend Chris. My gosh, there was a lot to juggle. It was coming fast and furious. Thank you so much for helping us, Chris. And I'm sending out so much love to all of you. Hope to see you again soon.